At Megiddo in Samaria, Shneor Zalman Shazar, the third president of the State of Israel, welcomed Pope Paul VI, 262nd Vicar of Christ and Supreme Pontiff of the Catholic Church. Here, overlooking the valley of Jezreel, Deborah, the Hebrew prophetess, and Barak won their victory over King Jabin of Hatzor, and King Solomon built the capital of his 5th northern district. The book of Revelation relates that at Megiddo, the last battle on earth between the forces of good and evil will be fought. Operation Shalom, the Hebrew word for peace, was the name given to the Pope's visit to Israel. In his words of welcome to the pilgrim of peace, President Shazar said, "Blessed be our illustrious guest upon his arrival in our midst." The closing words of the Pope's reply to President Shazar were biblical salutations.
Et dans lequel il nous plaît de résumer notre salut, notre prière, notre souhait. Shalom, shalom.
At the end of the official welcoming ceremony, the papal convoys set out on the road to Nazareth, followed by hundreds of photographers and journalists. The road to Nazareth passes the fertile fields of the biblical valley of Jezreel, studded with farms and villages. An arch of honor greeted the exalted guest at the entrance to Nazareth. Hand in hand with modern progress visible all around, Nazareth preserves its Eastern flavor. It was here that Jesus the Nazarene spent most of his youth. Visitors to Nazareth may still quench their thirst at Mary's well, where Jesus' mother drew water for her modest household. In the Church of the Annunciation, a large pillar of red porphyry stands on the traditional site on which the Archangel Gabriel announced to Mary the glad tidings. Over 50,000 persons thronged the approaches to this site, awaiting the arrival of the great pilgrim. Despite the cold weather, the sun left its sheltering clouds to warm the expectant crowds. Photographers from the four corners of the earth take up positions of vantage. As the Pope entered the Church of the Annunciation, followed by his entourage, the Deputy Prime Minister, the Mayor of Nazareth, Archbishop George Hakim, head of the Greek Catholic Church in Israel, and the Maronite Bishop of Tyre, he blessed the assembled members of the diplomatic corps. At this moment, he may well have recalled the verses of St. Luke. "Fear not, Mary, for thou hast gained favor with God. And behold, thou shalt conceive in thy womb and bring forth a son, and shalt call his name Jesus." In the grotto of the Annunciation, the Pope celebrated pontifical Mass. His short sermon, following divine service, emphasized three virtues that the world could learn from Nazareth: modesty, the appreciation of man's work, and prayers to his Creator. Thousands tried to reach the Pope's car to receive his blessing. On his journey to Tiberias, the Pope passed through Cana of Galilee, where two churches commemorate Jesus' first miracle, the changing of water into wine at the wedding feast. At Tabcha, on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, stands the Church of the Loaves and Fishes. It was here, according to tradition, that Jesus fed the hungry 5,000 with 2 fishes and 5 loaves of bread. On the ancient mosaic depicting the loaves and fishes, the Pope kneels in silent prayer. The Sea of Galilee, the sea sacred to Christianity. Many a spot along the sea's western shore is connected with Jesus and his ministry. A mile down the road, the River Jordan flows into the sea. Near the Church of St. Peter, named after Simon the fisherman, the first pontiff, Pope Paul dipped his hands into the waters of the lake. Close by is the spring of Job, where according to an Arab legend, Job cleansed himself of his illness. In ancient days, Capernaum, the Hebrew Kfar Nahum, was an important town. Most of its Jewish inhabitants were fishermen, farmers, and tradesmen. On the spot where the ruins of the ancient synagogue still stand, Jesus prayed and preached. In this town, where Jesus commentated on the writings of the prophets and healed the sick, Pope Paul viewed the synagogue's time-worn pillars and the finely carved stones which have attracted so many pilgrims. Leaving the synagogue, the Pope walked across the Byzantine mosaic laid according to tradition over the site of Petra's house. Here the Pope parted company temporarily from his entourage. Dignity and order were maintained throughout this pilgrimage to Israel. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. These words from the Sermon on the Mount were pronounced on this hilltop and were repeated by the Pope. The Mount of Beatitudes. Surely as Tabor is among the mountains, as Carmel by the sea, so shall he come. This quotation from the book of Jeremiah refers to the humped hill which dominates the landscape from afar. Even before the arrival of the Pope and his party on the crest of the mount, scores of correspondents were already hard at work preparing background stories for their papers. It was on this hilltop, which in bygone days was a strategic point of vantage, that Jesus was transfigured before the disciples and talked with Moses and Elias. Descending the mount, the Pope and his retinue saw the village of Nain, where, according to tradition, Jesus raised the widow's son from the dead. From here, the Pope went on to Jerusalem, the capital of Israel. If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her cunning, and my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. At the entrance to the city, the Pope and his party are greeted by thousands of its citizens. The mayor of Jerusalem welcomes Pope Paul with the traditional bread and salt, the ancient gesture of hospitality. A biblical blessing is pronounced by the chief rabbi of Jerusalem. On Mount Zion, by the tomb of King David, the Pope prays in the cenacle, the room of the Last Supper. Here, Jesus partook of his last Passover meal, together with his disciples. Several members of the Pope's entourage stayed on in the cenacle for prayerful meditation. Cardinal Tisserand, Dean of the College of Cardinals, paid homage in the nearby Martyrs' Cellar and lit 6 candles in memory of the 6 million Jews who perished in the Nazi Holocaust. From the cenacle, the Pope proceeded toward the Dormition Abbey, descending into the crypt of Mary. Here, according to tradition, the Mother of Jesus fell into eternal sleep and ascended to heaven. At Mandelbaum Gate, the frontier post between Israel and Jordan, President Shazar took leave of the Pope under an arch of honor erected for the purpose. Thus ended Pope Paul's historic pilgrimage to the holy sites in Israel. From Jerusalem, city of King David, the President of Israel bade the Pontiff Godspeed. May he take with him our heartfelt blessing of peace. In his reply, the Pope spoke of his unforgettable day as a pilgrim in Israel. The people of Jerusalem acclaim the Pope. The Pope and the President shake hands. At the conclusion of this unique visit, the people of Israel recall with hope the words of the prophet Isaiah. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more.